Welcome back, everyone. So just so you know, at the start, until we close those doors, it's actually going to be a little bit noisy to kick off with, but we just want to make sure, until the majority of people come back in the room, then we'll actually close those doors, so it'll be fine after that. Hope everyone's enjoying the session so far. So obviously, we've got this is probably one of the most powerful sessions coming up. This is obviously a new area, and I think everyone in this panel session has been in this area for years. And me and Dave caught up on Saturday, and I said, I wish I had been looking at this area when he was, which was back in 2012. Not only looking at the area, but actually setting up a business in this space. So, obviously, as part of this, everyone's going to give a bit of an introduction to who they are and what they do. And the moderator for the session is going to be Jamie Skella. Now, we first worked with Jamie in November, was it October, November last year, as part of the Horizon State ICO. Now, if ever there's a use for blockchain that's so important, it would be in the voting area, and that's Jamie's area, and he's probably one of the most known people in Australia now when it relating to blockchain, ICO, and crypto. So we're really privileged to have him back and be involved in this session. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Jamie, and like I say, big thank you to the panel session members for being involved in today. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Hello. It's a great panel that we've gotten together here for a discussion today. I'm going to hand the mic down in a moment for them to do their introductions, but we have people on the panel who run, for example, Australia's largest OCC. We have a YouTube celebrity in Saunders. We have people who are running cryptocurrency portfolios, in fact, Australia's first, the Chief Operating Officer for Blockchain Global, and the co-founder of Finder. So it's an all-star lineup. I'm going to pass the mic down, and it'd be fantastic for them to give you all a little bit of insight into their business, their background, and talk to you a little bit about who they are and why they're in this space.
What's up? How you guys going? Welcome to the future of investing, everyone. It's good to everyone to see you guys. Really great crowd, and thanks everyone for coming out to listen to the new stuff. My name is Schebesta. I'm the co-founder of Finder.com. It's the largest comparison service in Australia, and we're writing about cryptocurrencies, all the latest technologies. You can follow us online. And we recently launched an OTC desk called hivex.com. So yeah, keen to talk about all things crypto.
Is that on? Yep. So I'm Alex Saunders, and I run Nuggets News YouTube. So we're Australia's biggest crypto channel. We've got over 100,000 followers now across social media. And I've been educating people about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency since 2012. And recently, the business has expanded a lot after last year's price run up. There's lots of interest, and now we have a suite of professional services. We do advising, consulting. We help startup projects with a big focus on Australian startups. And yeah, it's a very exciting space to be in.
Good morning. My name's Matt Harry. I run the Cloudbreak Cryptocurrency Fund out of Melbourne. I think the screen says that I'm co-founder of Blockchain Global. I wish that was the case, but that's not actually the case. I am here in capacity as a representative for Blockchain Global today, but just to give you a bit of information about my background, I come from a wholesale currency trading banking environment and risk management. We started this fund in June last year, been operating, placed our first trades in November. All green months so far except for the past one. It's been a very difficult environment, as many of you will know, over the past 3 months. So we're very happy with the way things are going. But as I say, I'm not here really to talk about the fund today. I'm here representing Blockchain Global, as my colleague is Allan. Yep.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning, everyone. My name is Allan. I'm the Chief Investment Officer and also the founder of Blockchain Global. Blockchain Global, I believe it's the first or the second company set up in Australia doing all blockchain, Bitcoin-related businesses. The company was formed back in 2014. We start with Bitcoin mining. At one stage, we are one of the largest in the country, in Asia Pacific. And then we're doing exchange platforms. Now we have a few funds set it up, and also doing blockchain consulting stuff. And also, if you guys have been to Melbourne, and we also, founded a blockchain center from day one. That's a knowledge hub, sort of provided the place for people who wants to know about the industry. And then we have event sessions running. Now, blockchain center, it's on its own, it's independent. So yeah, people who go to Melbourne can go to the blockchain center to learn a lot of new stuff down there. And also we're doing advisory for ICOs and all sorts of projects as well. And also we incubate a lot of projects as well. So Blockchain Global, it's pretty much a one-stop shop in this industry.
Thanks, Allan. Thank you, everyone. My name is Dave Chapman. I'm co-founder of a company called ANX International. Originally, my background was investment banking. Discovered Bitcoin in 2012. Became so attracted to the nature of decentralized technologies that I left the investment banking career behind in 2013. And ANX International today is one of the world's largest blockchain technology companies. We have about 150 staff in Hong Kong. And along the way, we've created or bootstrapped a number of subsidiaries, one of those being Octagon Strategy. Octagon Strategy today is Asia's largest OTC trading desk. We facilitate very large buy and sell transactions, typically for the institutional flow. The reason why we started Octagon Strategy is because 2 years ago, we anticipated the institutional flow entering this market. So what we service are the likes of funds, family offices, asset managers, private banking clients, and corporates. I guess the interesting thing of this journey is when I left the investment banking scene in 2013 to where we are here today, I mean, the amount of maturity, even though it's still very nascent and still very new, is unparalleled. You have a few hundred people in this room. When Steve said today, who here owns crypto, I saw about 70% of hands go up. I mean, I met Steve in July last year, where there was not one element of crypto to his business. So in a very short period of time, this whole sector that Steve and his team has created is now very crypto-centric, and I think that's very telling. Cheers.
And for those of you that missed Steve's intro, my name is Jamie Skella, and I was involved in one of Australia's first token sales, which we leveraged Wholesale Investors services for during that period as well. The essence of what we've built is utilization of blockchain technology to secure the record of results in brand new ways, the record of, for example, election results, but also any other kind of democratic process. And by doing so, creating this sort of tamper-proof, unhackable record of the result, we're in effect working towards the eradication of corruption in our processes around the world, both institutional as well as governmental. So everything from shareholder voting through to elections. So it's been a privilege, I think, growing this business and starting this idea in Australia with such good company. I know we've got some representatives of Haven here who just ran Australia's largest ever token sale, and then of course the likes of Power Ledger. So again, who leveraged Wholesale Investor services. So we're in great company, and obviously some great company here on the panel today as well. Look, I wanted to run through a few high-level sort of topics for the panel to discuss and share their thoughts on. This includes the tremendous bull run that we saw last year and the bear market that we've fallen into, and our perspectives individually on that. About some of the self-regulation, I suppose you'd call it, which relates to the banning of token sale adverts within Google search, within Twitter, within Snapchat, within MailChimp EDMs now as well. I want to talk a little about the future, where we go from here, and whether we see an increased focus on institutional and VC investment in these token sale processes, which seem to be leaving out more and more of the public now, whereas last year maybe it was more crowd sale specifically oriented. And along the way, I'm sure we'll change topics and jump around a bit as well as interesting conversation pops up. And what I'd like to do, pending time, is also throw it out to the audience and see if there's any specific questions for the panel generally or any individual on the panel. So let's start at the top. Look, last year was obviously an enormous year for cryptocurrency and crypto assets more broadly. We really saw the token sale world take off in a really, really big way. Token sales raising many hundreds of millions of dollars. The market cap of crypto heading up towards the sort of $750 billion mark. It was astronomical, and now that obviously has changed. But I know Alex has been in Bitcoin since 2012, as have you, and so I mean, I haven't been in it quite that long, but this sort of market decline, seeing it slip almost 80%. We're seeing reports now of this is the pop. And if there's a pop to come, my personal opinion is that I'm not sure this is it, because I've seen these 80% dips multiple times already. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think since 2012, I've sat through 8 corrections of between 50 and 90%. And crypto is a volatile asset class. It doesn't have those market stabilizing mechanisms like stock market. There's not mature investors involved. It's majority retail investors that tend to be more emotional, and we don't have options and futures and those things to stabilize the price. But there's certainly a large degree of speculation, and a lot of the time the price can get ahead of the technology. And something that fascinates me is that everything exhibits a high degree of correlation to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin goes down 70% and Horizon State goes down 70%. And there's that wouldn't happen in the stock market world. And that just shows me that these markets are still in their infancy. And you look at the market caps of these projects and they're still very small, I think, to what they can grow to if they achieve their goals. So we've just got to be aware of price and technology development.
Dave, any thoughts?
When you look at when we say about the price of Bitcoin, okay, when everyone says that it was $20,000 or nearing $20,000 in January this year, and we're now sitting on $7,000, we do need to put things into perspective. I mean, Bitcoin was $900 in January of 2017. As far as any sort of appreciation goes for any investment, if you've invested in something that was $900 in January last year and is now sitting on $7,000, I think that's still something that's probably unprecedented. Last year we saw $5.6 billion raised through initial coin offerings. This year alone, we're probably exceeding $2 billion this year. I mean, in this event, I've done a little bit of math, and there's probably $500 million Australian dollars that people are proposing to raise. I mean, it has completely disrupted the venture capital model. I think unfortunately, with this market going parabolic, there is a lot of heat in this environment. There are a lot of people that are saying, hey, I want the 40 times gains in the next month. My advice for anyone that is looking to participate in a token sale or an initial coin offering is do your homework. I mean, this is a new technology. There is going to be a lot of failures. Do your due diligence. If you're investing $100,000 of your money into a traditional investment, you'd be looking at the same sort of signals as to what to look for. What are the founders? What are their track records? What is their right to win? What's the competitive landscape? These are all things that people should be looking at. Just because it's an initial coin offering, there should be the same sort of level of due diligence applied as any traditional investment.
Fred, I've recorded an episode for Finder on the topic of cryptocurrency. You guys have been doing a lot of coverage in this space recently. What are your thoughts, and have you seen a significant shift in attitude or interest over the past 6 months from bull to bear?
Yeah, so I think you saw the rise, just like with the internet. If you had .com after your name, early internet, people would just throw money at you. And we went through sort of that phase. And I think there were people who were like, 7x, 10x-ing their money on these ICOs. But now, unfortunately, with that slowdown, I think you've got a lot of investors holding a large number of these tokens, and they're trying to offload them to some extent. And then when you've got the decrease in Bitcoin and Ethereum, that's obviously spurred that. They've hopefully locked in their prices at high prices on buying these tokens. I think that's where the sort of sentiment's at. I think the other thing that's starting to happen is the question of, is this a security? Are tokens a security or not? And I think the lawyers are really getting fired up, and I recommend you, if you are doing a token sale, to get a good lawyer. Because the SEC and Australia will follow, and they're trying to figure out basically what's a utility token and what is a security, what's a managed investment scheme and what is not. And my forecast right now is that I think this idea of all these tokens launching and the network effect of their coin being used, I think that's a thing of the past. I think there's enough of those out there. I think that's sort of maximized. That trend sort of ended. I think what you're going to see coming forward over the next 6, 12, 2 years is actually moving these tokens into securities. I think the next thing that's going to be disrupted is not necessarily like VCs obviously had a tough time, but I think the stock exchanges themselves are going to have serious competition with these tokens launching and paying dividends out to actual investors, which it should be, right? A token should be some sort of investment or some sort of ownership in that company. Whereas what's happened before right now is that they're all relying on this network effect of the coin being used, the token being used. I think the other thing that's happening high level is everyone's going back to Bitcoin because everyone's questioning what is the value actually of all these other tokens and all these other coins exactly? What's the actual use case? And Bitcoin, obviously, its promise is a store of value, like gold. And I think you're seeing that come back. I think people are going, oh, I remember what this is for. I remember why we're into this. and they're really getting back behind that. So I think there's a real shift towards away from utility tokens towards securities, and I think you're going to see a shift right now, a real vortex like you were talking about, Alex, about Bitcoin's just going to go up and everything else will go up with it, or Bitcoin goes down and everything else goes down with it.
The topic of token classification, I think, is going to continue to be a pretty interesting and pretty grey area for quite some time. I try and look at it with relatively agnostic eyes in respect to existing asset classes, because I do personally firmly believe that what we're looking at is something brand new that needs to be addressed in brand new ways. Certainly, as an investment vehicle, as a security, there are many of these kinds that exist right now, and arguably many tokenized assets should represent something that looks like a security, but even then some of those do have some kind of utility value. They do look kind of like a commodity, kind of like a currency specifically, and so there's often a very interesting blend of potential definitions between these classes as well, which I think is going to leave things relatively unclear. But as Fred suggested, I think the best thing anybody can do right now is make sure that you're doing everything you can if you're running one of these processes to stay above board and do the right thing. And ultimately, as long as you've got the right advice and you're doing everything in your best interest to ensure the protection of the people that have invested in your idea or are customers of your business and buyers of your potential commodity, then that's what matters. Matt, you manage a cryptocurrency fund. What are the last few months been like for you?
The last few months have been difficult. We've managed to record 2 green months and a red month. It's been pretty tough in the fall from 20,000 US to 7. I think it's pretty undeniable that we're in the process of a bubble bursting. I think what is up, and I'll qualify that in a moment, but I think what is up for debate is whether we are still in the stages of denial or whether we've actually found a bottom. And there's a huge battle between the bulls and the bears going on, as Dave would know, in the OTC market at the moment. But if you look at the volumes that took Bitcoin to its all-time highs, if you look at the left-hand side of the chart going into the highs and then the right-hand side of the chart coming out of the highs more recently, you see the volume up here going into the highs, and then it just drops almost to nothing on the way down. So what that suggests to me is that we still have a lot of so-called hodlers in the market, and I think at some point, this is probably not great news for people in the audience, but it's just an opinion. It's just an opinion, I'll say that. At some point, I think the institutional money forces the hodlers' hands, and we see a deeper clean out to the downside. I think technically there are very few indicators at the moment showing any sort of a bottom, even though we've pulled up ahead of $6,000. And I think we really need to see a proper clean out come in, volume return at the bottom of the market, and things start to find a base, maybe in the 3 to 5 grand range, US dollars. And I think there'll be some very keen buyers down there. Having said that, I believe that the clean out's not open, I do also believe in long-term value in this market. If you look at the NASDAQ burst in 2000, Amazon was trading at $113 US. Bubble burst, went down to $6. It's currently trading at $1,500. So that would put Bitcoin off current levels around 7,000 US at 1.75 million. It also put Ether at 300,000. So we see bubbles burst and we see markets rise again, and I think that's exactly what's happening at the moment. I'd be very careful if you're pursuing the hodler's strategy of just holding on for dear life, or the BHP strategy, the buy, hodl, and pray strategy. You may be able to reset at lower levels. And as I say, there's not a lot of convincing technical indicators coming out of the charts at the moment that are telling me that the turn is likely. So we're currently holding off for lower levels.
I want to talk a little bit more in a moment about the impact of institutional money finally flowing in, and that steer away from crowd sales, at least large portions of the sale being crowd. I know I also want to talk about the impact of the ICO sort of advertising ban, but before we do that, Allan, Blockchain Global, $200 million plus invested across 50 different blockchain startups or more. That might be even an old figure now. What do things look like for you right now? How's the landscape changed, and what are your thoughts?
I don't think anything changed. We invest a lot of money in various projects. As I said, we're doing mining, exchange, ICO, blockchain consulting, everything. And some are doing okay, some are doing not okay, and some are in the process to be successful, some are in the process to be fail. But as long as we stay in the industry, we cash flow positive, keep investing, and I believe in the next 2 years or 3 years, everything will pay back, because blockchain is definitely the future. You can revolutionize everything. At the moment, the only successful product is Bitcoin, and then in the past 8 or 9 years, there's no mistake at all, and never happened. And there's a lot of projects flying in the sky now, and I believe when given enough time, when the technology is more landed on the ground, and then we can see more and more successful projects, can apply into our daily life to make everything more transparent, more legitimate, and in a good way. Get rid of all the agents and be more fairer system compared to any other things. So, we're just trying to raise as much money as possible, and then to be involved in as much as possible, to keep alive and to learn. That's the strategy for our business.
So thinking about the implications and potential causes for the current bear market, we've touched on institutional money, and I do want to talk more about that in a moment in respect to fundraising specifically. How do we, on a slightly different topic, how do we feel the implications of various guidelines or rulings or fears of rulings, for example, the SEC and FinCEN, and amusingly, you think about the situation over in the United States where FinCEN is saying that all token sales are money transmission, and you've got the SEC saying that most token sales are the sale of securities, but of course by law that they can't be both. So there's even some confusion amongst the organising and regulatory bodies in the United States. What effect have these fears had on the price? And additionally, I want to talk a little bit about the bans, the kind of self-regulation that's going on, and the bans we've seen for Facebook ads and Twitter ads. Did you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, from a regulatory perspective, it definitely does act, or it definitely makes people skittish around the uncertainty. It's one of the things which is also preventing institutional flow from entering. You've got regulatory uncertainty, you've got lack of custody, and you've got the volatility. I mean, what we are seeing, though, is more positive regulation come into effect. Regulators have an extremely difficult job trying to regulate this technology. They can't go into a data center with a subpoena to shut something down when something is decentralized. But I think the way that we are progressing is sort of self-governance. We saw from Nick today from the ADCA in trying to lobby forward-thinking protocols or forward-thinking rulings with the government and working with the regulators. I recently returned from 2 trips. One was in Bahrain, where I was talking very openly with the central bank. They invited me to come and talk to them about what are the best ways that we can actually regulate this, given that we've never had to deal with a decentralized technology before. I also returned from a trip from Malta, where I met with the Prime Minister to openly discuss ICOs and discuss crypto. And I think one of the interesting things around regulation and what we'll see coming forward is we'll actually see more nimble jurisdictions like Australia, like Malta, like Gibraltar, Luxembourg, Zug, Liechtenstein. These are the jurisdictions, the regions that are actually seeing this as an opportunity. I think 2017 was the year of acceptance. People are no longer considering crypto a fad or a Ponzi. I mean, there are definitely elements of those, unfortunately, in any new technology space. But I mean, the general consensus is that this is a new asset class. It isn't going to go away. And regulators and governments and central banks can't stick their head in the sand anymore. They have to actually have forward-thinking policies. They have to start working with the participants in this ecosystem to actually do the right thing, is actually do regulate it. And I think, last year we saw a lot of positive regulation. I think this year will be a continuation of the same.
Matt, I know you had some thoughts on regulation as well.
Yeah, look, I think the general theme globally has been there's a bit more of a friendly environment coming from the regulators in terms of recognising the legitimacy or potential of the technologies. The SEC in its Senate hearing at the start of February was pretty hawkish in its tone on the industry, saying that they believe they have a responsibility to younger generations, which was a weird thing to say, to nurture this technology and bring it to fruition and have it legitimised in the financial markets. I think it's tough for the regulators. ASIC's got a very difficult job. I mean, they're there to administer the legislation and take guidance from the courts, and really there isn't any legislation at the moment. So they're being asked to referee in a game for which the rules have not been outlined. So it's really tough for the regulators. They're not the bad guys, and it's really tough for founders as well, operating in a legally grey area. There was a paper released by ASIC late last year, the tone of which basically for participants in ICOs was caveat emptor. But I would argue that perhaps it's also seller beware, because I think in terms of regulation, it's not going to be delivered as a parcel. I think it's going to start from the outside in, where the worst actors, shall we say, in the industry, those guys that are engaged in the most blatant cases of fraud and misrepresentation, will be prosecuted as a starting point, and we'll move in from there. But I think for founders, really, if you're a founder of an ICO or a token, I think as long as you can demonstrate responsible allocation of funds and actual work on a project, then I think you're probably going to be in the right ballpark. I think going to the extent of covering off everything that would be required under a traditional IPO maybe is a little bit too excessive and onerous. But I think if you can document appropriate use of funds and progression of your project, then you're probably going to be somewhere near the mark.
Fred and Alex, you guys both obviously do a lot online. Thoughts on regulation if you've got it, but more interestingly, I think I'd be really keen to hear both of your thoughts on what these bans mean and whether you think it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, so those projects that have been subpoenaed by the SEC are the ones that had big celebrity endorsements or were scams and fraud. So I definitely agree with that. And the space has changed. So put your hand up if you own Ethereum and if you know how to send it to an ICO. So in 2016, anyone with an Ethereum wallet could send in and participate in an ICO, and then it got to the space, the point where it was so hot that the network was overloaded and you couldn't do it. And that's kind of what changed. We'll talk about, I guess, the VC investing topic in a little bit, but that's why I think Facebook and Twitter have had to crack down, because there was just so much ICO, so many bad projects. I think the stat was 10% of your funds are going to scammers. So if you raise $30 million, there's people in your Telegram and in your Slack chat that are taking $3 million of that. So something had to change. There was too many nefarious actors. So we need regulation for these markets to mature, and I think we'll talk about the rest of that in shortly.
Yeah, so my take on regulation is it's going to get regulated. It's going to happen. It's all good. Again, all of this early stage scams, that's what happened in the internet as well. 97, 98, 99, you got an email, it was proposing to be eBay. It wasn't eBay. You suddenly sent some money, you lost some money. I'm sure everyone's had an experience like that. I think what you're going to get is some really, really smart individuals in either America or the UK put together some really smart laws and some really smart thinking, and then they're going to roll that out around the world. Because globally, like you were saying, in Malta, all different countries, Gibraltar, are all trying to compete with where is the home for cryptocurrency? Who has the most favorable, understandable laws? Because whoever does that is going to get a lot of tax, like a lot. Because the difference this time is you've got a global exchange. It's very hard to transact a Google share or a BHP share if you're not in the right country or not in the right jurisdiction. And whereas the difference this time is that we can all buy the same token, security, currency, utility, whatever it may be. And that's a different game. So these governments, I believe, are going to be, whoever's going to actually get their act together is going to actually be the most progressive. I think Australia is relatively well placed. They just need to be a little bit less conservative in this case, because we've got very strong banks and people trust Australian banking. So when you do a deal, they know that you're going to get their money, if that makes sense. So globally, we're positioned with high trust. I think it poses, for us, as a good place, and that's why it's good that we haven't actually put our laws out yet, and we're waiting to put the right laws out. It could mean potentially a lot of tax, could mean a lot of innovation, a lot of technology coming into Australia. But I think we tend to follow America and we tend to follow the UK. You look at the credit laws, those kind of things, that's what happened there. I think it's very positive. I think regulation will bring even more activity and more legitimacy. I think when it comes to bans and things like that with Twitter and Google and Facebook, those companies ban lots of other companies. They ban payday loans. They ban pornography. They ban casinos. They ban all sorts of things. Like, that's just regular, right? You can't just put a random investment scheme out on Facebook or Google anyway, or Twitter, and get ads approved. They get disapproved. So that's just regular. We haven't figured out exactly where it sits. I think that'll change as well. Once you get a certain, again, accreditation or some sort of license, I think, again, you'll see those things sort of appear back. They might appear in a different format where you're advertising the actual product and the service as opposed to advertising a token sale. I think that's probably the format you'll see them come back onto the market. I guess, yeah, I think with all this regulation stuff, this is just temporary. This is actually really great. This is going to actually boom this entire space. I think the reason where actual prices are depressed a bit now is everyone's a bit scared. And what do you do when people are scared? That's the best time to buy, right? So the more fear Matt feels, the more I'm going to buy his Bitcoin.
I think the point on how language is changed and how the positioning of a business's presence in marketing is super valid. I think we have to grow up a little bit and see some maturity in the market where we stop advertising the tokens and start advertising the products and the services. This is the current analogy is that if you were to run a video game arcade, you would be promoting the tokens which you put into the machines instead of the machines in the arcade itself, which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. So that certainly needs to happen, and look, for that reason alone, I don't think the bans we're seeing do anything except create additional perceptions of credibility and legitimacy by protecting consumers from those bad actors. Moving on, because we already are running out of time, I want to touch very quickly on the changing investment landscape. So back in October, when Horizon State went to raise, we raised entirely from the crowd. In fact, there was no institutional investment in our sale of any kind. Now, given the democratic nature of our technology, this is a particular point of pride ultimately. It worked out well that we were able to create opportunities for the democratization of investment opportunity and potentially the democratization for wealth generation opportunity for everybody, rather than just a select few and rather than potentially just making the rich richer. But what we've seen over the past few months is that a lot of really big token sales and ICOs have run almost exclusively to institutionals and private pre-sale deals, VCs. Allan, you've been involved in a lot of money in this space over the past 12, 18 months. Do you think this is a trend that's going to continue, or do you think we are going to see a nicer blend of these fundraising initiatives into the future?
I think VC money is good, but it's too smart and too tight. As they are the ones know how to run the company. They are the ones know how to choose the team, and then to do it in the right way. But in terms of speculation, those monies sort of come from the individuals. We have participated a lot of ICOs, to be honest, probably hundreds of ICOs in the past. Obviously, middle last year and early last year wasn't so hot, and middle last year was really hot, and all the projects out there, and then people putting the money. That's all from each individual, probably your mom, dad, and whoever on the street wants to participate, and that all makes a lot of money. Obviously, the regulation. The good thing about regulation is to make things in the proper way, get rid of the scammers and those type of people. But that's why it make the price drop significantly. But to take a step back, and that is for the next big jump. That's how I see this. With the VC to come in to the place, they will do more due diligence on the ISO projects. Maybe we say the market is a bit down now, but I think it's happening in a good way. And then later, when we say VC involving, and then every individual who can involve in, as Alex mentioned, Fred mentioned earlier, the blockchain is about bring transparency and the efficiency into the market. What happened with the traditional market, it's only the big players can get into good company shares. But people like us, we probably miss out the opportunities. But ISO somehow changed that. And the funny thing is, middle last year to late last year, a lot of VC, they wouldn't be able to get into it because it's just too quick, and then they gone too quick. And now, because market is a bit cold, so somehow they got opportunity to talk to a lot of the ISO projects. I think with a bit of combination of VC get involved into a certain stage and then make the projects more real, and then also with all of us as individuals who participate in, I think with that dynamic will definitely bring, and also with the regulations in the place, will definitely bring the ISO environment to another level. So yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it's look personally, and it might be a little idealistic, but I do believe pretty deep down that it's a crying shame that we have this technology which enables vast participation across borders, using these decentralized and sort of self-sovereign currencies, and yet we're almost reverting back to the fundraising mechanisms of old already so early into this journey. Alex, I know you've got some strong thoughts on this.
Yeah, so it's a trade-off. So once all that scamming starts to happen that I mentioned, a lot of the projects went down the route of VCs and traditional investing because it's a lot safer for them. They can secure $10 million with no stress versus having to KYC 1,000 people and 100 of those get scammed. So there's reasons why it's gone down that route. But yeah, the projects that I advise, we don't go to VCs. We very much like to give the community first dibs on the projects, and we don't like those 50% bonuses in the pre-sale, so that gets dumped on the market day one. And the projects don't like that either. They want a diverse range of individuals that care about the project to own their tokens so that they don't get dumped on day one. So yeah, I definitely agree. The fact that anyone in the world can buy $1 of something is very unique, and we should try and stick to that.
Any other thoughts on the panel in regards to this?
Sure. I get the feeling that this panel's been a little bit doom and gloom around ICOs. I definitely want to try and make it a little bit more positive. My personal feeling on ICOs is that they are definitely a new and recent financial phenomenon, but they are here to stay. I mean, these things are not going away. They have completely disrupted the VC model. When I started my business, I couldn't get a VC to call me back. I mean, now if you want to raise anywhere between $5 and $10 million, as long as you have a decent project, I mean, there is no reason why you can't do that through an initial coin offering. So I think, are there people that are using this new technology in some wrong ways? Sure, but I mean that's not unique to ICOs. I mean that's unique to that's with all new technology. I think that there is no faster way to raise either capital or community than doing an initial coin offering. So I think that is this market heated? Absolutely, 100%. Are ICOs a fad? No. Are they here to stay? Definitely. I think that what we will see is that the ICO market will mature. I think we've all agreed that regulation will come into effect as these do progress and go further. But are ICOs going to go away? Not at all.
No, look, and I totally agree. If there's been any sort of perception that we are speaking in doom and gloom terms, I'm more than happy to backtrack on that, because I'm a big believer. And despite the fact I don't necessarily think people are raising in the right way at the moment, I think that hopefully we get back to what I believe is more of the right way. But either way, the important thing is that there is a clear realization now that the money is there. When you remove the gatekeepers, that sort of bottleneck, so to speak, for every good idea there is ultimately enough money to fund it. And the analogy that I like to use is back before the internet, you would have major publishers which were effectively the gatekeepers of good information, and there wasn't the opportunity to get information to the world with a relative ease like there would be with self-sovereign digital publishing. And now we're seeing that when you remove, for example, VCs from the equation and entrepreneurs can take their ideas straight to market and talk straight to people with the money, that there is lots more money than what we would have otherwise seen. A similar sort of experience, couldn't get VCs to answer calls or emails 6 months ago, and now they're all worried about what the future of venture capital looks like. So look, I think we're almost out of time. Do we have time for, is Alex around? Is he gone? Oh, there you are, great. Do we have time for some questions, or do we need to wrap it up? 2 questions? Any questions from the crowd? Oop, there we go, quick hand. Let me hand this over.
So, sorry, I'm not sure what your name is. Fred. At the start, you said that one of the things that we were going to start seeing is people getting ICOs getting people to hold tokens by offering dividends. At the moment, from what I know, because I looked into that, is that if you do that, you actually need a financial license in Australia. So that restricts most startups, I guess, from doing that as a financial license. Is a very complicated thing. So I was wondering if you knew a way around that currently. And the second part of the question is, yes, I can see the benefit to an ICO, and I have a use case for something that could be used and create its own economy. However, it's only a certain type of person that does get involved in the crypto market, and that excludes, I guess, maybe the elderly portion of the population who I'm interested in, and other parts of the population that I'm interested in. I find that it's really difficult to go from fiat to token currently in terms of someone who isn't involved in this and doesn't know how to do it. So I feel I'd be excluding a really big portion of the population. I still encounter so many people that don't know what cryptocurrency or blockchain is. So do you have any ideas to get around that?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of, let's talk about the legal aspect. I don't have the solution on that. I'm not a government person and I'm not a lawyer, but I think that will get solved. There are some really, really smart people working on this, and there are some really smart lawyers, and there's going to be some guidance as to how that actually occurs. And my hope will be that it'll actually be simpler than the entire process that involved with an IPO and things like that. If I was going to talk without advice, there are countries currently that have not progressed these laws and things like that. I wouldn't skate towards there. I'm saying I'm not telling you to go and do that, but that is sort of, I guess, what some people are doing right now. They're moving away from these big jurisdictions. To the point about adoption. So how do you get someone to buy tokens? I think the best thing you can do with that is, with any adoption of innovation, what tends to happen is you get a simplified version of whatever it is you're going to use. So you remember when the internet started and no one really worked out how do you go on the internet? What is this Google thing? I remember those days. I remember when that was the case. How do you get internet traffic? That used to be a massive question. No one knew. I remember submitting listings manually to get people listed on Yahoo and things like that. You'd pay to get listed. That's back in the day, right? So there's an adoption of innovation that's going to occur. I think over time, every single person in this room eventually will have a digital wallet. I think everyone's going to buy some Bitcoin, and I encourage you to do it. And try it and just figure out exactly what's going on. Because fundamentally, this is going to happen one way or another. And what I want to say to, I guess, some of the people that you're worried about that aren't going to invest, they're never going to come on board. Like, there are lots of people who don't have internet banking. They still use checks. They still go into actual branches. A lot of people don't. Some people still don't have a mobile phone. You're not going to actually market to that audience, if that makes sense. The actual audience that's going to come on board are people who are attending this event, and I encourage, this is amazing that everyone's here, and they're going to tell their friends, and they're going to tell the other people, and that's how these things start. We're in the beginning of the internet. We're in the beginning of cryptocurrency right now. And so it's going to happen one way or another. There are going to be big education portals. There are going to be small use cases that will trigger things. I think the smaller the use case, like Brisbane Airport doing accepting cryptocurrency, that's an everyday application. There's all sorts of things that are going to happen that are going to trigger this. I don't know what that application is going to be that's going to set everyone off, you know, to really deeply get on board with that. I think with the internet, it was pornography to some extent. Pills, porn, and casino built the internet, right? That's just a fact. Same thing will happen, I think, I don't know if that's the same thing or what the major application is. Currently, the major application is a store of value. If you are in a country where your currency is deflating dramatically and you need to get money out, which I know a lot of generations have had that experience where you used to go to stamps or you used to go to all sorts of odd things to get your store of value. Bitcoin, when the next government, the next country goes under, we'll see a huge flood of people flooding into Bitcoin and escaping their country with that store of value. And when that happens, you're going to see a huge price spike.
We're going to have to wrap it up, but I think just one final comment on adoption is that when you think about historically improved abstractions of value and their adoption, if it's improved, which I truly believe, and I think it's almost unarguable that cryptocurrency is over existing abstractions of value, such as the dollar bill, it's just a matter of time. It took about 400 years for people to stop trading pieces of gold and start trading pieces of paper that represented that gold. So it's just a matter of time, and I think this time it's going to be a lot faster, as is everything as our exponential future approaches us in a faster and faster way. Alex?
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Jamie, thank you, and that concludes today's panel. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you to Jamie Skella, Dave Chapman, Matt Harry, Allan Gore, Alex Saunders, and of course, Fred Schebesta. Just to reiterate Fred's point, tell your friends. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll be commencing the presentation shortly. Okay, Tim. Beg your pardon? Here we are. Okay, I would now like to welcome Tim Johnson of Apollo Capital to the stage. Thank you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful to be here today, and wonderful to have such a solid turnout. Thank you, Wholesale Investor, for having us. And very pleased to see so many crypto enthusiasts. It's excellent. I'm Tim Johnston. I'm from Apollo Capital. I'm here today to talk about the Apollo Capital Fund, which is an actively and professionally managed portfolio of crypto assets. Quick disclaimer, might be a bit hard to read, but key point here is this is not financial advice, and if you are considering investing in the fund, please read the information memorandum. There are three key takeaways that I'd like to communicate today. They are the opportunity. Crypto is an enormous opportunity, and we see this as an opportunity to invest in the foundation of a new asset class. The second takeaway is the fund. The fund solves many of the pain points associated with directly investing in crypto. The third takeaway is the team. We think we're extremely well qualified to manage a portfolio of crypto assets, and we think a team approach is preferred when compared to investing individually. Right, so the first point, first takeaway. Now, at this point, I was actually going to do a poll and get a feeling of who is a crypto convert, who's a crypto critic, and who's here to simply learn more about crypto. But Steve told me he did that at the start of the day, and apparently 70 to 80% of the audience have invested in crypto, which is fantastic. So I won't dwell on the opportunity too much. I'm going to assume that we're mostly converts. Having said that, if you are here to learn more, or you are a critic, please come up and talk to us. Visit the website. There's lots more information where this comes from. I'll still talk about it a little bit. Just to give you an idea of how we think about the crypto opportunity. As I said, we see crypto as a new asset class. So right now is the opportunity to invest in a new asset class, and that doesn't happen very often. I wasn't alive when equities as an asset class began, or debt. It's very, very rare. We think the returns of this asset class will be realised, and the panel touched on it, which I'm glad they did, as crypto becomes more mainstream. As crypto becomes more mainstream, demand will increase, and hopefully the value of the crypto assets will increase as well. So there's a couple of ways that we think that this demand might increase for crypto assets. We're not sure exactly, or what might be like Fred was talking about, what the tipping point might be for crypto to become mainstream, but we think there's a huge potential, and it might happen in a number of ways. It might happen in only one way, but we're pretty confident that the technology is there, and the potential returns are there as well. So I'll talk about these quickly. The unbanked, the World Bank estimates that there are still, in 2018, 2 billion people in the world without a bank account. Crypto solves that as a store of value, like Fred talked about. Cross-border payments, 2018, it's still a nightmare. I had a personal experience with this recently. It's very difficult. Bitcoin, you can send it peer-to-peer almost instantly. Micropayments, I've skipped one. Democratizing capital, the panel talked about that as well. ICOs, an opportunity to raise capital. Micropayments, 2018, it's still an issue with major financial institutions and the way that their financial infrastructure. Crypto, again, it solves this problem. A couple of other ways: data ownership, keeping data private and actually owning one's data. General purpose computing platforms, obviously Ethereum. There are many more. Store of value, I'll talk about on the next chart. But these are just the ways that we've thought of, or other people that have thought that crypto might become mainstream. We're confident that innovation will continue to flourish. Some of the world's best developers are working on ICOs, working in this space. So we're confident that innovation will flourish. Key point here is just as Bitcoin has disrupted financial middlemen by allowing people to trade value directly without the need for an intermediary, we think crypto will continue to disrupt and cut out middlemen. I talked about it. I won't harp on this because the panel did talk about Bitcoin as a store of value. Bitcoin has been likened to or called a digital gold. The key point of this chart is Bitcoin still has a long way to go. The chart shows gold as 5%, which is the middle bar, and 10% of gold as the final bar, and this is roughly the current Bitcoin price today. So if Bitcoin were to become 5% or 10% of gold, it still has a very long way to go. And by that, I mean the total market cap, or the total value of all the gold in the world. I won't harp on this as well because we are crypto converts, but the point of this slide is the top venture capitalists in the world are backing crypto both financially and publicly. It's their job to identify the most promising technology in the world, and these gentlemen in particular are very, very good at what they do. Between them, the early investors in Facebook, Twitter, Tesla, Coinbase, which is a crypto exchange, Airbnb. But there's a problem. Investing in crypto is hard. It's not easy. It depends on how tech savvy you are, but particularly for those that aren't tech savvy, it can be very difficult. Now, when I say that, it can be even more difficult to construct a proper portfolio out of crypto assets. It's becoming more and more straightforward to buy some Bitcoin or to buy some Ethereum. But as I said, constructing a portfolio can be very difficult. It's hard to pick which crypto assets to choose, which ones to invest in. It's hard to store the assets safely. It's hard to trade the assets on exchanges. It's hard to keep track of reporting. It's hard to keep track of compliance and tax. These are all teething problems that come with a new asset class. So this leads me to the second takeaway of today's presentation, the fund. So the Apollo Capital Fund, we feel that we solve many of these problems. We take care of tax, we take care of the reporting, and when I say we take care of tax, it doesn't mean that we completely take care of it. We still obviously need to pay the tax, but we make it easier for people. We take care of reporting, we take care of security, which is enormous, trading, and the research and analysis. So I want to call out two of these in particular, the security and research. So too many, just starting with security, too many investors today, crypto investors, are relying on exchanges. It's just regular, almost commonplace news that exchanges get hacked. And it's well known that it's not best practice to leave your crypto assets on exchanges. You are trusting, if half the point of crypto is to have a trustless system, you are trusting a centralized point. So with the fund, we take care of that as much as we can. We obviously need to do some trading on exchanges, but we try to follow best practices. Well, we do follow best practice as much as possible, and by that I mean we store as much in cold storage as possible. The other point is research and analysis. We apply a new structure to valuing and analysing these assets. We have 3 full-time professionals constantly looking at crypto opportunities. We have an investment committee which meets monthly to discuss opportunities. We have advisors that help with deal flow and their opinions on certain investments as well. All of this combined together means that we think we can analyse crypto opportunities in greater detail and with greater rigour than can an individual. There's 2 other points I'd like to make as well. The first is self-managed super funds. Now, I've spoken with auditors, and there can be audit issues with directly investing in crypto through one's self-managed super fund. Part of the problem can be proof of ownership, proving that you control the assets and that the assets are not being used for personal use. Investing in a fund, don't have those issues. It's just a unit trust. So units in a unit trust, it's very straightforward. The other point I'd like to make is comparing the analogy, comparing investing in equities. Many in the room today, equity investors, they might invest in a fund, but they also might invest directly in shares that they like. There's no reason why you can't do the same with crypto. Have a portion of your assets in a fund and invest in select ICOs. Maybe some are presenting today. I'm going to talk about the investment strategy of the fund. First of all, the fund is alive and kicking. We started on the 1st of Feb, generating returns. The key philosophy of the fund is a long-term belief in crypto. Personally, I'm not fussed what happens month to month in crypto. It's a we think the biggest gains are to be had over a long period of time. 60 to 70% of the fund's asset are in long-term positions, up to 30% in ICOs, although we are highly selective and we do remain cautious about ICOs. And the last 2 can be grouped as opportunistic trading, taking advantage of opportunities that present. The third key takeaway is, the team. And this is where we think we have an edge. There are a few funds popping up, and we think our edge is we combine traditional financial services experience with a deep passion for crypto. There are many people that might have experience in one or the other, but there aren't that have much experience in both. Henrik Andersen is our Chief Investment Officer. He's here today. He's presenting. I'll talk about that later. Super knowledgeable, very smart, very passionate about crypto. Himself, he combines that experience which I talk about. He's been investing in crypto since 2013, and he has 17 years financial services experience, including almost a decade on Wall Street. Very, very impressive CV. Got a minute or so? Finish. Okay, that's fine. We can finish. Let me go. This is the broader team. Fund terms, I'll quickly talk about this. We're only open to wholesale investors. Minimum investment is $50,000. We're open for monthly applications. It's a monthly open-ended fund. And the last point is Henrik is presenting at 3:55 today. The presentation is on valuing ICOs and crypto opportunities. So I'd be very surprised if you didn't learn something from that. It would be very interesting indeed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. And now I'd like to welcome Campbell Waskett, CEO of Charitex, to the stage.
Morning, everybody. Alex asked me to give a short presentation. Compared to him, I don't have much choice, do I? Thanks. This is a fantastic event, by the way. Thanks to Wholesale Investors. We're in the room to find out about crypto, to learn some more, and if you're an investor, perhaps find something that resonates with you, you can connect with, something that you believe is value. If I could tell you about our project and point out that we've got risk managed, risk addressed through our structure and our strategy, a robust business model which gives you rewards, and we deliver social impact. So we're putting money to work to actually create change and to affect good. That's the kind of thing that you might be interested in. There's lots of fantastic projects here. We think we've got something really, really special, and we want to tell you about it. We're over there in the corner, wearing the black shirts. Come and talk to us. First of all, let me give you some context and talk about the problem that we're actually addressing. Most of us here in the room have given money donations. We give money consistently year after year. We're not too sure where the money goes. It's a bit opaque. We're not too sure if the money gets to where it needs to go. Does it do any good? Is there an impact? Is there change affected? Fair call? It's a really, really big problem. And in fact, so much so that globally, and the stats produced and the research indicates this across a number of studies, the leaves are falling off the tree, donations are reducing, and there's actually more demand for humanitarian effort. There's more people, right? The world's growing. We need more money, but the donations are actually stalling because people are dissatisfied, they're disillusioned and perhaps disenfranchised. We're disconnected from where the money's going. We can't see the change. The leaves are falling off to the tree to the point where the model's actually broken. I'd posit that the model's broken. It's not working. So we can't keep doing this on a global scale and think we can actually improve the world with an old, broken model. So what to do? If that's the problem, what's the solution? We think, we believe, we know, and you've heard a lot about blockchain already today, that blockchain, the harnessing of that technology with a smart business model is actually a brilliant solution to this rather pressing problem. So that's what we've done. That's what Charitex is. It's innovative, it's different, it's ethical, and it's a sustainable model. In fact, so ethical, we've called it an ethical coin offering, an ECO. You like that? We're taking a space, and you've heard already, just to quickly say, there's a movement towards security tokens. The ICOs of 2017, new phase, absolutely agree, totally agree. We're a security token, managed investment scheme. We know what's happening in Australia, lots of legal bills. Got those? Taken the advice, structured it smart. We're in the space and we're here to deliver value to our community and to our supporters. So it's an ECO. It's a profit for purpose model. We're harnessing digital technologies and crucially, we're delivering positive social impact. So if you were to join us in this project, you go to sleep at night, you put your head in the pillow knowing that you've got a robust business model, good rewards, but also you're actually doing good. So it's investment for purpose. It gives another dimension to the opportunity for you. And we really want people to come with us. I took the point from Alex about the community, building supporters. We're going to build a fantastic community over time. It starts with you. If you think it's something you'd like to be part of, that's you, the little red person there. part of the Charitex community, and connected to people all around the world through an Ethereum utility token, connected through with smart contracts, part of the community. You have a voice on what the projects are, you can vote, you get rewards, you're part of the solution. This is not a passive thing. We want engagement. Quickly, the business model, top level, token event, generate funds, put it onto a trading platform and generate yield going forward. The trading fund will invest in commodities, typical traditional trading fund, commodities, indices, so forth, but we'll add other revenue streams. And just very quickly, 2 revenue streams. One is we will actually incubate and promote other ECOs. 2 concepts already in work, under work. Two ECOs already going, more ECOs to come, and we're going to develop Charitex into a platform. So think what Xero has done for bookkeeping or Salesforce has done for CRM, Charitex can do for social impact. That's the ambition. It's bold. We believe we can do it, and we're going to build it out. Because blockchain, if ever there was a sector that blockchain works for, it's this space. It makes consummate sense. Peer-to-peer, movement of funds, efficient delivery of support right to the point of need, and the ability to measure and feedback. So let's take that through. We take the yield, and we can talk to you about the model in more detail. Take the yield, go through, and there's community rewards. We'll talk about that over at the desk, but there's rewards for our supporters and the social enterprise. We push money through a governance gateway. We move it through, follow the red line across to points of need, wherever that may be, connected all through the world through blockchain completely. We have auditors. It's validated. This is completely transparent. So remove the opaqueness, replace it with transparency. Right down to projects like capacity building, training, microfinance for the lady with a sewing machine, and the little girl in the corner in the Philippines where the village needs water because they have to walk to the well 3 kilometres away and might get attacked. We can actually do that. We can deliver the money right to the point of need. We know it gets there. It doesn't buy a Rolex for somebody. It actually gets to deliver the water pump. And we can prove it, and we can show you. So that's that little model there, just kind of outlines how it works. The community in red, connected, seeing what's going on, the money going straight to the point of need. There are some people validating on the ground. You can't dehumanise this completely. You need people to do some checking. That's good. And you get the feedback and the proof of impact and so forth. So that's a schematic of the model. So what have we got? In summary, I'll just bring this home. Smart business model. We've got multi-revenue streams, and we've got a platform to build out and to take to the world. By the way, the market for that is quite big. Not-for-profits, NGOs, and CSR. Massive market. And if you talk to corporations, how do you do that? They go, oh, you know, we use an Excel spreadsheet. Right? How do we measure it? What's the impact? So we've got an opportunity, you think about it, in revenue stream, quite big, long term. Engaged community, I've talked about that. And we've got an efficient delivery and feedback loop to keep you informed. Voting, nominations, and so forth. So, kind of finished where I started. This is a project where we've addressed risk through structure and strategy. Redeemable units plus a token. It's quite innovative. We'll talk about it in detail. Okay? It's where the market's going. And the returns, community rewards, active token holders get community rewards, plus there's value in the business. This is a business. This is not an ICO and we're buying a yacht in the Bahamas. This is a business, a long-term business. We're actually here to play. We're here to make a difference. And we're going to make that difference with positive social impact. This is blockchain for positive social impact, making a difference in the lives of real people wherever. We're starting with the Pacific and Southeast Asia as a geographical focus, and we've got some amazing people in the team. Really, really good people. So that's Charitex. We're sensible. We're not crypto punks. I dye my hair grey, by the way, just in case you're wondering. We're not crypto punks. We're not digital natives. We're not trying to usurp the government. We're compliant. We're serious. We're sensible. And we're here to make social impact. And we'd like you to come with us. We invite you to come with us. This is the kind of project that you can be proud about being involved in and talk to people at dinner parties, oh, by the way, I've got some crypto, but you know what I did? I went with this project. So that's the pitch. That's what we're here to talk about today. 3 or 4 of the team are here, and we'll leave you now with a video. And any questions, please come and see us. Love to talk to you. Thanks very much.
We want to make a difference. We know charity fatigue is a real problem. It's getting harder to get the donations. Donors want to see where their money goes and what difference it's making. We have a smart solution. Charitex is the first ECO, ethical coin offering, in the world. Using blockchain, it will radicalise the existing charity model. You acquire the coin, the money is put to work, revenue is added from other business activities. The fund grows and the yield is distributed. A single contribution through securing a token in this ECO creates ongoing social impact. Using blockchain, we will create a platform enabling any group or charity to transact globally without bank fees or middlemen, moving funds quickly and with full transparency. You become part of the global community and active token holders get rewards. You get to vote on where the funds go and see the social impact. This is not just a game changer, it can be a life changer. Our vision was to create an ethical coin based on a solid business structure with an ethical and vibrant team, solid tech, proven advisors and alliances. It's important to us that we deliver value to our token holders and to people in need. This is a profit for purpose model. Together, we can make a difference. We invite you to join us.
Thank you, Campbell. And now I would like to welcome Charles Pitter, CEO of the London Football Exchange, to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be here. As we've said, fantastic to have such a great audience, and thank you, Wholesale Investor, for putting this terrific event on. My name's Charles Pitter. I am the CEO of the London Football Exchange, and before I say too much more, what I'd like to do is start with a video.
It's the most popular sport in the world. For some, it's almost a religion, igniting emotion, adrenaline and unbridled passion. Regardless of age, colour or creed, it's the sport that unites us all. It's football. As the world's most well-known sport, an estimated $33 billion are spent each year by up to 4 billion football fans. Week in, week out, nearly 50% of the world's population watches a match, rain or shine, to support a team. Their team, their club. The London Football Exchange is a global movement to create the ultimate sport community, where fans enjoy exclusive club and fan experiences. When you join the club, your matchday experience would look like this. You get your LFE tickets, you head to the ground with your best mates, maybe stop for a bite to eat and get the bill using LFE Pay, which earns you a discount and LFE points. Maybe it's time to get that new flag of the team you love. Pay with LFE Pay. Keep using LFE Pay and the points you collect can get you more on and off pitch experiences. They could even get you a ticket to a meet and greet with your football hero. The LFE is the world's first blockchain-based marketplace where fans can buy LFE tokens to receive exclusive access to the loyal fan experience whilst being part of the club. The LFE token is secured on the blockchain, a distributed ledger protected by secure computer code, and is fully transparent. The LFE market bypasses many of the current middlemen to offer better direct-to-fan services at a lower cost and with more security than any other program on the market. The London Football Exchange is the future of football, sport and the loyal fan experience. Join the LFE and be a part of the club at lfe.com.
Right, terrific. So we have established this LFE business about 6 months ago. We're at the point where we know that the football clubs around the world are looking for a greater level of fan engagement. They want to know where their fans are, and they want to engage with them in a closer way outside of the traditional match day experience. We also know fans are looking for a greater level of engagement with their club, and so we've got a variety of different ways of achieving that. The key thing here for us is that there are 4 billion football fans around the world. That's essentially half the world's population, spending, as you can see, $33 billion a year on the game. We've heard a lot about in the panel discussion then about how can we see blockchain, how can we see crypto becoming mainstream. Well, we think through the adoption of the LFE, 1% of fans around the world spend simply $10. We easily make our ICO target, which we'll talk about in a moment, and it has the opportunity of really moving that needle as far as the adoption of crypto around the world. So there's a business problem we're trying to solve here. With extensive discussions with football clubs from around the world, we know that it is an expensive business to run, right? Players are expensive, infrastructure is expensive. Sources of capital in the traditional way is also quite expensive. If you can imagine a private football club wanting to raise some equity, you've got to do an IM, likely you'd have to appoint an investment bank, and then more importantly, the ultimate buyer of that equity, their interests aren't necessarily aligned with the interests of the football club. So the idea of the clubs engaging in their fans, having their fans participate in the equity of a football club is very, very appealing. There's also a huge opportunity for clubs to generate greater revenue from ticketing, from merchandising, from around the world. A difficult proposition, and as we'll talk about a little bit later, blockchain has the ability to do that in a far more efficient way than is currently being done. We touched on the fact that traditional match-based engagement just can't scale. Not everyone can get to a game, but the fans want a greater level of engagement. And so the LFE business provides that opportunity for our fans. So what's our solution? We offer a number of different things. One of them is fans are able to purchase equity in the football clubs that are participating as far as our program. As we'll see, we've got 5 major clubs signed up already. We'll be announcing our first Premier League club in the UK in the coming days. And so loyal fans around the world have the opportunity, once they've purchased their LFE token, to actually spend and use that token for the purchase of the equity in the football club of their choice. We also know that approximately 40% of merchandising revenue gets lost to middlemen through the supply chain. And that really hurts clubs. Also, there's so much fake merchandise that gets bought around the world. So through the opportunity we have here, fans are able to buy, using their LFE tokens, are able to buy legitimate merchandise at a discount, at a cheaper rate than what they'd ordinarily be able to get through the traditional vehicles. And very, very importantly, the clubs are able, through the LFE marketplace, are able to understand where in the world their fans are. Some of these clubs have tens of millions of fans around the world. They don't necessarily know where they are. And so the marketing opportunity for clubs to access those fans is very significant. So the video touched on a lot of this, but essentially what we're doing is we're creating a very complete ecosystem, a variety of different ways for fans to participate in this game at a greater level than they're currently able to. So as we heard, and we've heard this today as well, more and more solutions are coming out to allow people to use their wallet on their phone, their crypto wallet, to purchase beer, a meal before the game, to be able to purchase in stadium. And we're working with a variety of different providers around the world to provide that platform. So our view here is that we want to make sure that our token holders have the opportunity to spend their tokens in a variety of different ways. It can be merchandising, it can be, as we see here, through payments at the stadium, it can be payments around the world, and it can also be obviously to purchase equity in their chosen football club. And this realistically could not be done without the power of blockchain. So as we said, 7% of ticketing revenue gets lost to middlemen, 40% of merchandise revenue gets lost to middlemen. Through blockchain, we can start to reduce those charges towards zero and essentially provide LFE token holders something unique that others can't get. There's 180 currencies around the world, and again, we heard earlier on the panel session as far as increasing adoption. But if you can imagine trying to transact with all of those different currencies, with the time it takes to get money from point A to point B, with the transaction costs, it really becomes prohibitive. But with an LFE token, of course, that can all happen immediately, and there's essentially close to zero transaction cost in that. So it really does open up the world to be able to participate in this game. We've talked about the unbanked. It's true, 30% of the world are essentially unbanked, but the majority of people, there are more mobile phones in the world now than there are people. So there's a great opportunity to be able to access that market. And importantly for us, clearly, 2% of the world are into crypto. I know a lot of us here are, and 50% of the world are into football. So our aim is to really bridge that gap and greatly increase the adoption of crypto through the attraction of the game of football. So to do this, and we've talked a lot about trust, we've talked a lot about adoption, we've talked a lot about regulation. Our starting point with this was to do it as well as can possibly be done. And so there are a few things that we've done so that people who buy LFE tokens know they're secure and they know they're dealing with an organisation that they can trust. The first one, and I'd encourage you to look at the Securrency website. They're our partners who are building this platform for us. The development of this has been underway for well over 12 months now. The founders of Securrency a couple of years ago, they were essentially Homeland Security and military personnel who have great experience in designing and managing some of the most secure systems on Earth. A couple of years ago, they left to found Securrency, and they're wanting to build that same level of security into this platform that they're used to. Their wallet identification, personal identification, KYC, AML are essentially second to none, and it's done in a very streamlined, very secure way. We've got Europe's largest law firm, CMS, who are doing all of the legals for us, all of the legals for the football clubs and for the fans. So again, our fans can have the confidence that everything we're doing is being done as well as absolutely possible. And if you go to our lfe.com website, you'll see we've got a fantastic management team. We've got an extraordinary group of advisors who really do cover all of the different areas that you'd need to be able to make a project like this work. So we are in the process of our ITO. We're in the pre-ITO stage now. In a couple of days, we're in the early backer stage now. In a couple of days, we start our pre-ITO. And this ITO will continue right through until around middle of July. As you can see, the price of the tokens at the moment is sitting at 14 cents, and through the various stages of the ITO, it gets up to 20 cents, which is when we launch. We're in advanced discussions now with an exchange that will be carrying our tokens. And look, we believe there's limited supply. As you can see here, 2.4 billion tokens are being released. So limited supply, incredible demand, passionate demand from fans who absolutely love the game, love their clubs. And we feel as long as we can provide, which we're doing, the various liquidity options to allow the fans to use the tokens, and of course, for those that hold them, then we should, and we're not making predictions at this stage, but we're confident that we can see an uptick in the value of these tokens as time progresses. There's a list here of a few of the clubs we've signed. Happily, we've signed several more. If you look at the news that comes out in the next couple of days, as I said, our first major Premier League club has signed with us. It's very much a household name. We've just signed a sponsorship deal with a group called SoccerX, who run major soccer events around the world. Their next one's in China in a few weeks' time. So through the combination of clubs signing up and these sorts of partnerships, we're getting the word out about what we're doing and very confident that we'll continue to sign more clubs and obviously continue to get many more fans. As I touched on earlier, I know 350 million sounds like a lot, but it really simply equates to 1% of soccer fans purchasing $10 worth of tokens, and we beat that number. So, you know, our view here is, of course, institutional investment is something we're more than welcome to consider, but we're very, very keen to have our token holders, the people who come into our ITO, to be the mums and dads, the kids out there who love the game and essentially buying these tokens as a way of getting closer to the game that they love. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. Now that concludes the second session. Just to let you know, after lunch, we've actually got a special guest speaker, which is Bob Bonomo from the US. And one of the areas being talking about is what's actually happening in the US, right? So Bob basically brings a Wall Street perspective to what's actually happening in this market. And also he's got their own business here, Blockchain Terminal. So please enjoy lunch. Kicking back off at 1 p.m. We're running 10 minutes behind. Thank you very much.